Today on the Best of Oklahoma Gardening, former host Steve Dobbs shows off some of the historical gardens on the OSU Stillwater Campus. We take another look at two of the homes from the Oklahoma Horticultural Society's 2015 garden tour for Connoisseurs. And Barbara Brown has a spinach, mushroom, and apple salad. Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance is provided by TLC, Oklahoma's leading garden center, Southwood Landscape and Nursery, Tulsa's source for great gardens, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
I'm on the campus of Oklahoma State University, and probably one of the most photographed locations that we have. We're right here in the heart of campus in the formal garden, and you can see behind me we have the library, and probably not a visitor or student on campus hasn't walked through this garden and taken pictures. We like to surprise people with different things and have big splashes of color. And of course, over the past few years, we've been introducing topiaries into our landscape. And again, behind me, we've got topiary hat. We have a topiary booth out on campus in a different location that's been here probably 5 years. We take those in the wintertime because they're not cold hardy. But this year we're going to introduce some new topiaries out in another location that's a color garden that will spell out OSU. And again, there is live plants growing on those with long fiber sphagnum moss and drip irrigation in them, so they're really a living piece of art, if you will. And you'll see that we have an underlying theme this year, and that happens to be the 125th anniversary celebration for the university. OSU was actually established on Christmas Day in 1890. And so this Christmas will be our 125th anniversary. So in our landscape campus beautification efforts, we've been adding a few little surprises, which you'll see with the OSU topiary in that garden. But here in the formal garden, we tried a little bit of a different display and planting scheme this year, where we really spelled out images that are reminiscent of some of our history here at Oklahoma State University. You'll see a cowboy boot, and you'll see Old Central, you'll see a birthday cake and some balloons, and even a Pistol Pete head, all spelled out with plant material. The plant material that we're using is Joseph's Code, and I think we've got probably 6 or 7 different cultivars or colors that we're using to spell out and make the shapes. We plant them probably 4 to 6 inches apart early in the spring, and we trim them meticulously, and I've got a couple of staff members that do that, and they're very dedicated. We have a horticulturist and a student who solely take care of this garden, and so it's not uncommon for them to be out here trimming with scissor type handheld hedging shears to keep that nice, neat shape. So it's been interesting to see it evolve, and we're starting the celebration, and again, it's very festive, and we hope folks will come and take a look at this. But from a horticulturist standpoint, I always am enamored by some of the plant material that we have that makes the designs, and I've got probably 2 or 3 that I'd want to bring to your attention. One of the display gardens here that's very colorful, that doesn't really spell anything out, we're using several different plants, and of course here at OSU we have to have our splashes of orange color, which we add in every year. But one of my favorites is a Cufia called Vermillionaire, and it's upright growing, very full and robust. It's got little cigar looking flowers that hummingbirds actually love, and they're a really nice orange color, and they love the heat. So the more heat, the bigger they grow. They just don't like heavy, wet soils. And then we're contrasting that plant with a silver foliage textured one that is cardoon. Now, a lot of people get a little bit excited about that, thinking it's maybe a thistle weed or something from a pasture, but it's actually related to artichoke. It acts as a biennial forest, so it really won't bloom this year. If it overwintered, it would probably bloom next year. But it's got wonderful silver foliage, lots of texture, and it makes a nice companion plant with our orange and white colors. In addition to those, there's a vinca that is growing. It's low growing, and it's the Mediterranean series. It's solid white. It's kind of filling in our birthday cake. And it's very unique because one plant may grow 3-4 feet wide in a given summer. It's an annual, of course, loves the heat, but it's low growing for a vinca or periwinkle. So that's one we seem to use every year, it seems like. And then another one that we've kind of used to fill in some of the plant designs, like the boot or the pistol peat, is a low growing one called dichondra. Now, it's a little bit different species than some of the dichondra that you might see in a lawn weed, but this one comes in two colors, silver falls as a cultivar, or an emerald falls, or an emerald green, which is the green one. And they just hug the ground and spread and grow like crazy, but a beautiful silver foliage. The silver falls grows a little bit more aggressively than the green one, but really it does a great job of filling in for us. And I think one of the most unique things at our garden is if you're here and you're wondering what these plants are, you can go up to some of the signage where there's a QR code, and if you've got a smartphone with a QR code reader, you can just go up to that sign, scan it, and it will bring up a website link that shows a picture and tells you every one of the plants that's in the formal garden. So it will help you become more aware of some of the plants that we're using that you may want to try in your own garden or landscape. Well, we invite you to the beautiful campus of Oklahoma State University here in Stillwater this fall, and we hope you'll come and check out some of these displays that we've had a lot of fun in designing, and learn about all the different colorful plants, and more importantly, help us celebrate 125 years of educational success.
We have an absolutely beautiful fall morning to look at the garden of Dee Nash. We're at her home. Dee, thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you for having me.
This is such a treat. You have, how much garden area do you maintain?
I maintain about an acre total.
Wow. Did you start that big?
No, I started with a tiny little square, a tiny little square of a vegetable garden, and then it grew to this.
So this is amazing. And this is actually where your garden started, right here, is it not?
Yes, it is. We started with a plan out of a magazine, and it started out as a vegetable garden, and then eventually it became all of this because, the flowers kind of crowd in.
They kind of crowd everything else out, don't they?
They do.
So, and you actually moved your vegetable garden then?
I did. My vegetable garden is now up on the hill. It's a potager.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So, well, this is beautiful, and it's fall, and it just still looks gorgeous. And what are some of your favorite plants for
Some of my
fall?
favorite plants for
Yeah.
fall? I really love the grasses. I love the panicums, the switch grasses, and I love the beauty berries, and I love mums, you know, true garden mums and asters. I have a lot of asters. In fact, I think I have an aster addiction.
Well, it works very well this time of year, and it's kind of important to have those plants that bloom in the fall, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's important for the pollinators because, you know, we're on a migratory stop for butterflies as they come, especially for monarchs, as they come down to Mexico. And so I try to plant things that they like to sip from, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to help them.
Very nice.
Sulfurs are another butterfly that is really predominant in the fall.
So, well, it just absolutely looks gorgeous. And I also noticed that you've left a lot of seed heads here,
I have.
and this provides good interest.
Yeah, it's good fall interest. Like this is a hydrangea arborescens, and it's Annabelle, which you know is a native to Illinois. And so I grow it here, and it has these big fluffy white seed heads. But in the fall, those turn to a lovely brown, and the leaves turn to a lovely kind of golden brown. And I think it makes it much prettier. And it should be turning. They should be turning in the next couple of weeks.
So it is. It's gorgeous, and then it even lasts through the winter.
Sure, and not all fall and winter interest is about flowers. Of course, winter's not because it's too cold unless you have seed heads left over. So you've got to have other plants, you know, like the beauty berries, like other types of plants that have beautiful leaf color and berry color. And plus, it also helps your birds in the fall.
And when would you cut the seed heads off?
I actually cut them off in spring. I cut them off like about March is when I do it. I just leave them all winter because I like the way it looks.
And that doesn't affect their bloom then?
No, it doesn't. Well, it doesn't this one. I mean, if you had a macrophylla type of hydrangea, that would be different. So you need to check which type you have. This one, it doesn't hurt it a bit because
Okay.
it blooms on new wood.
Very good.
One of my favorite plants ever.
So, well, let's go look at your kitchen garden.
Okay, great.
Oh, Dee, this looks really nice.
Thank you.
And you're kind of switching over your seasons here, huh?
Yeah, the tomatoes are still up, but before long I'll be pulling those down. You know, it's getting too late for them. And then now I'm putting in like kale and chard, and also I still have some basil because, you know, I just can't do without the basil. I keep it as long as I can. And then just some other plants, lettuces, spinach, things like that.
Very nice. And the height of this is great.
Well, thank you. When we put it in, I was tired of being down in the vegetable garden on my knees. You know how all gardeners have bad knees and bad backs? So I just put it at seat height because now I can just sit on the edge and reach to the middle. And that's why they're that far wide too. They're about 4 feet wide. And then also we sit out here for parties and stuff, you know, because they make such great seating. But that was just, we didn't plan that. It just worked out that way.
That's really nice. And we really appreciate you asking us to come and maybe we can just walk around some more.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We're at the home of Debbie and Robert Daniels, and we're here with landscape designer and owner of Escapes Inc. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mike Lindsay. And Mike, thank you very much for giving us a tour today.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Well, this is an impressive landscape, and it's a little different than some of them that we see in that it was a renovation. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, the pear tree and the cypress in the front are probably the only existing trees left. There's a lot of storm damage over the years, a lot of overgrowth, and pretty much we came back in and all this has been fabricated and built, and the dry creeks actually have functioning drains in them to get the water through readily. And that's why so much of our product is elevated, because a lot of your conifers like your weeping blue atlas and your true cedar of Lebanon, they like good drainage, so this ensures even in a wet spring that they succeed.
Well, that's nice. And it's a kind of you bermed this, kind of made a raised bed out of it.
Yes.
And, but what did you start with here? I know we were looking around ahead of time and you showed us what was originally here. And I think that's so interesting.
Right, well,
back here in the back.
we had just a typical square little 2 or 3 foot strip bed and bordered with brick, and we removed a certain amount of it, but then there was a piece of it that we decided to leave, just kind of shows you the original landscape, and I thought that was kind of cool. I like to see those different elements, and it's kind of unexpected, and it's kind of, I thought it was interesting to do. So anyway, I left this one segment so you could see the old garden pieces of it.
That's really good. And it also kind of shows that you really need more space to be able to create the layers that you have. And another aspect of that, I know over here, there was another piece of architecture that was here that didn't really go into your design, but you've really disguised it well here.
Right. Well, this brick wall was existing, and it had several breaks, and as brick usually weathers and what have you, but there were cracks, and we came in and patched and fixed those. But we just thought that green element would be more interesting than that brick wall, because you've already got the brick back here, so it gives you kind of a contrast and kind of makes it more garden-like. It has a nicer feel, I think, a little more depth.
It does. And talk about depth, just the layers of plant material that you have, and you really use a lot of trees in your design. I do.
As a matter of fact, most of our designs are at least 60% evergreen, so that you have a nice balance in the wintertime. So whether it's a shrub, evergreen, tree, conifers, magnolias, hollies, it's just nice to get the colors and the textures and combination for a nice look.
Well, you do a very good job of it, and
Thanks.
I want to go see the back, because you can really tell how you've used all the height and the layers and everything. Let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Wow, you can really see all of the layers of vegetation back here. And again, just the trees that you have.
I try to buy 6, 7, 8 foot B&Bs, or ball and burlap, when I can find them in Oregon. It's really hard to find. And then I'll put them into my growing fields in Mustang, and it takes me 10, 12, 14 years to get one up to a decent size. But they're just so unusual, and they're so hard to find that I have to grow them. They're just interesting.
They are. They're just gorgeous.
And this is like Bracken's best magnolia. I like to use them because it's compact, it's easy to maintain, and they'll take our winters. It's a really good magnolia for Oklahoma.
You also can see all the different color that you get with evergreens that aren't green.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's the whole goal for us, is to get the colors and the textures and the blues and the greens and the golds, and it just adds more depth to the garden, I think.
It's really nice. Now, I notice here we walk along, and really this isn't a real wide backyard. It's actually narrow and long, but you have a good buffer strip between this lawn and then the next house.
Right.
How did you
Well,
accomplish
basically
that?
that's utility easement, and these sweet gum were branched down to the ground. There were weeds, there were sucker trees. It was a mess pretty much, and just not being used. So because of the lack of area and space we had, we decided to go in and develop that to give us a richer depth factor to this garden. So it's multi-layered, if you will, and I don't know, I think it just gives it more depth.
Yeah.
A little more interest.
It is. It does. It really does. And it's funny because you have so much plant material packed in here, but the way that you've layered it and all, it doesn't look crowded at all.
It works well, and you have to just take into consideration you have more shade type plants in the back, and the owner is very conscientious. He loves his garden, so he puts a lot of his own time into trimming, and as long as you're willing to do that, you can make it work.
And speaking of trimming, this grass is like carpet.
It's awesome.
And how does he maintain it this way?
Well, he's got a greens grade mower or a fairway mower that he bought, and this lawn, I can't tell you how many times it's been top dressed. It's basically just a 419 Tiff, but it's just been mowed and taken care of so well that you could pretty much putt on it if you like. So
very good. One last thing to look at. There's an impressive wall at the very back that I want everybody to see.
Cool. Okay.
Now this is an impressive wall.
It's all there.
How did it get here?
Well, the owner really liked his boulders, and so he mentioned there was a white picket fence and there's some little dogs yipping and stuff over here, and we were just talking. I think it's just like usual. I'll come up with, we'll just be conversing about something, and I mentioned something about doing some rock or maybe some boulder or something, and then about 2 weeks later I show up and there's 2 semi-loads of boulders, and Robert's stacking. He literally took what we talked about seriously, and I think it's worked awesome. You know, it's just everything goes away, and we put Boston ivy and English ivy on the more visible areas, and it just gives a nice softening factor. That's that third backdrop to the utility easement that we reclaimed and included into our garden. So I think it's a nice touch.
It is, and
unexpected.
It's a good divider between
ma'am.
your space and the neighbor's space. And this has been an awesome tour, and thank you so much.
Oh, you're
letting
welcome.
us come.
Thanks for coming and checking out the garden.
Springtime always makes me want spring greens, and today I'm doing a spinach, mushroom, and apple salad, which kind of is a crossover season because the apples we don't usually think of as much with spring. So I've got 6 ounces of fresh spinach. You can use baby spinach, you can use regular spinach, and just tear it into smaller pieces if the leaves get really large. I also have 8 ounces of mushrooms that are sliced. Make sure you clean them well. The amount of chunkiness of the slice is totally up to you. I notice that sometimes if you buy them commercially, the slices are thicker. You can also just clean them, slice yourself. Again, it's totally up to you. Just make sure that when you clean them, you do it with either a slightly damp towel or a dry paper towel or a mushroom brush, because they soak up water so much because they are like sponges that if you let them soak or actually wash them in water, they get all that water in them and they're not as good anymore. Next thing I'm going to put in here is 1 red apple. Now I chose a red apple because I wanted to leave some of the color in there. This is really, there's not a lot of color going in here besides the color green and beige from the mushrooms. So we're going to leave the skin on our apple. You could use a yellow one, whatever you happen to have. Just try and leave as much color as you can. For that reason, I also chose a red onion, looking for a little bit more attractiveness in the final dish than we might have otherwise. And then I've got 1 egg. Now this is 1 egg that's been chopped. It's a hard cooked egg, so you can do this a couple of days ahead of time, have it ready to go. And so this becomes, or could become, particularly if you added at least 1 more egg to it, a main dish kind of salad. Now we're just going to have those in there ready to go while we make a dressing for it. I've got 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Now I'm going to use, this one is a mild flavored olive oil, but this is a kind of salad where you could use something that's got a lot more boost of flavor to it. I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar. In this case, you could use a champagne vinegar. You can even use a balsamic vinegar. And 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon, let me get my things in order, 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper, and about 1/8 of a teaspoon of soy sauce. Now that's not very much soy sauce. It's not going to taste like it's got an Asian influence, but it does give it a little bit more salt flavor to it. Also gives it a little bit more color and just enough flavor to it that it makes it interesting. Whisk those together. This is a temporary emulsion, so don't anticipate you can do that before you do all the rest of the things, or it's just going to come back apart on you and you're going to have to whisk it again. And then it's simply a matter of tossing it. Now, as I said, you could add more eggs to this. You could also add some grilled chicken to it. You could add some tuna to it, either grilled or out of a can that you've drained. It's very flexible, like all salads are. The concept here is that we just want to toss it so that all of the salad ingredients get coated with some of the dressing so that you have flavor everywhere. And once you do that tossing, because you could do the layering a little bit ahead of time for some of the ingredients, the apple won't hold well, but you could substitute grapes and then you could do a lot of that well ahead of time. But once you put the dressing on it, the acid in the dressing is going, and the salt and so on, are going to start making the greens wilt. So this becomes a terrific salad. I hope you'll give this one a try. It's very refreshing. It could be a lunch salad, it could be a dinner salad, or if you want to serve smaller plates of it, put it as a side salad too. I hope you'll give it a try. It's spinach, mushroom, and apple salad. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.
Next week on the Best of Oklahoma Gardening, we have 2 gardens in Tulsa, Oklahoma that you should definitely make a resolution to visit in the new year. Former host Steve Owens tours both the Linnaeus Teaching Garden and the Tulsa Botanic Garden. Also, Barbara Brown cooks a winter vegetable soup. So join us then for more of the best TV you'll grow to love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, TLC Garden Centers, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.